So, how about giving mom back to us? My brother Ralph and his wife, who selfishly abandoned our mom Melanie, on their own terms, now come to demand her return as if it's their right, without even an apology. I'm embarrassed and ashamed that such a despicable man is my brother. My name is Allegra. I'm 38, working while raising two daughters, aged 7 and 5. I married Lucas, my colleague, and we're still working at different branches of the same company. Lucas is kind and helpful with childcare and housework, but when we hit our busy season, both of us are swamped at work. At that time, finishing late and rushing to pick up our kids from daycare and school. We decided to work together as a couple, but I feel like crying because of physically and mentally exhausted. My mom, who lives about a 30-minute drive away, supports me through these times. Also today, beaten by the busy season and unable to cook, she brought a load of her homemade dishes. When mom opens the door, my daughters rush to her as if they've been waiting. Grandma! Welcome back! Oh, it should be hello first. Ignoring my amused reaction, my daughter takes mom's hand and leads her into the house. My girls just adore their kind and fun-loving grandma. Allegra, I also bought your favorite pudding. Have some with the kids later. Mom, thank you. Delicious meals, playing with the kids, and even caring for me, I'm deeply grateful to Mom. But then, her mobile phone rings, it shattering the peaceful moment. Hi, got it. I'll be back soon. After hanging up, Mom sighs softly. From Cheryl? Yes. She wants me to buy a cheesecake from that new bakery. More of Cheryl's whims. You had kind of same issue before. Cheryl doesn't work, she should buy it herself. I know. But she's hurt because of Ralph. I need to be kind to her. Mom, if they ask too much, promise you'll tell me, okay? Thank you. Mom smiles brightly, for reassuring me. Still, I can't help but worry about Mom's relationship with Ralph's family. Ever since Dad passed away 2 years ago, Mom's been living with Ralph and his wife. During the discussion about Dad's inheritance, Ralph and his wife suggested Mom to live together. Mom, who suffered from mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, initially refused it. But Ralph insisted and was wanting to live with Mom at any cost. When I probed further, it turned out Ralph had been fired few months ago. He messed up something and couldn't find work in the same industry. Now he got another job, but its salary drastically reduced. Unable to afford his high-rise apartment with a monthly rent of $2,000, he wanted to inherit the family home in exchange for taking care of Mom. It wasn't out of concern for Mom living alone, but for money. I advised against it, saying it would only bring stress, and Cheryl, who was unemployed, could work to support themselves. However, Cheryl, my sister-in-law, cried out. But Ralph promised during his proposal that I wouldn't need to work ever. She was adamant about not working. Eventually, Mom gave in and agreed to the living arrangement, as blaming Ralph for breaking his promise to Cheryl. Since moving in, Cheryl was feeling betrayed by Ralph, stays in her room, surfing the web or playing online games. She leaves all the housework and shopping to Mom, making her run errands like today. It's frustrating to see Mom being taken advantage by Cheryl. Even when I express my concern for Mom's well-being to Ralph, he, feeling guilty towards Cheryl, just avoids the issue. And Mom, she just says, "It's Ralph's fault," and gives in to Cheryl's demands. It seems Cheryl resorts to verbal abuse when things don't go her way. Mom is completely innocent in this. Feeling helpless about how to improve the situation for Mom. And frustrated that I couldn't do anything. A worst-case scenario unfolded. One weekend. Got something to discuss. Unexpectedly, Ralph came to our house. I had a bad feeling, but sent the kids and Lucas to the park and welcomed Ralph into the living room. Ralph, looking conspicuously gloomy, sipped the tea I prepared and then started speaking gravely. You know about the bad blood between Cheryl and Mom, right? Well, yeah. I said ambiguously. It's more like Cheryl is just using Mom for her own benefit. Ralph seems oblivious to my reaction, nodded exaggeratedly. Cheryl's so stressed about it, it's a real problem. Huh. I think it's Mom who looks worse off. I'm her husband, I need to prioritize Cheryl. Huh. That's admirable, a true model of husband. So, I've decided Mom should move out. Huh. His outrageous statement made me yell in disbelief. Kicking out Mom? Not Ralph and his wife? No way! Why should Mom leave? Ralph was visibly shaken by my outburst, continued his selfish reasoning. No choice. Cheryl's been crying and saying she can't live with Mom anymore. Then Ralph should leave. That's impossible. You know, my salary dropped from $100,000 to $40,000. I can't survive if I leave that house. That's because you got yourself fired. If Cheryl doesn't want to lower her living standards, she should work. Nah, Cheryl really doesn't want to work. That's all Ralph and Cheryl's convenience. Don't make Mom clean up Ralph's mess anymore. How about Mom, living on her pension, supposed to survive if she's kicked out of her house? I couldn't believe how selfish this couple was. Anger boiling over, I fiercely accused Ralph, who darted his eyes around in panic. Then he dropped a bombshell. I get it, I do. Your anger. But aren't you forgetting something? What? The house is in my name. His chilling words froze my heated mind. That was under the condition that Ralph would take care of Mom, right? Yeah, but, you know, situations change. Ideals and reality differ. Why is this someone else's problem to you? Can't help it. No matter what you say, legally, that house is mine. Ralph smirked smugly. Ah, this man, he planned to kick out Mom all along. You are despicable. I hurled the word at him, filled with all my contempt. Ralph looked down at me with cold eyes, his mouth twisted oddly, laughing. Ha ha ha. After laughing and popping a snack into his mouth, Ralph went away and left me trembling with anger. Anger, sadness, disappointment. My head was swirling with negative emotions. Above all, thinking of Mom, betrayed by Ralph, made my heart ache, almost bringing me to tears. I can't let Mom get hurt anymore. I have to protect Mom. That night, after the kids were asleep, I told Lucas about what happened during the day. Holding back tears, with a trembling voice, I shared my story. Lucas, deep in thought for a while after hearing me, finally spoke slowly. Hey, how about we invite Melanie to stay with us? Eh? I was taken aback by Lucas's suggestion. I had intended to invite Mom to live nearby. So Lucas's suggestion was more than I could have hoped for. Is that okay? Why not? Melanie has done so much for us. It's about time we can repay her kindness. I'm actually happy about it. Lucas said, smiling in a way that made him look almost divine. Lucas, thank you. Sure thing. It's been a while since our family grew. I resolved to love this playful man for the rest of my life. A month later we made up our minds. I went to my parents' house to bring Mom to our home. This house now belongs to Ralph. Never set foot in here again. I'll never forget Cheryl's harsh parting words. Mom was downcast in the car and stood anxiously at our front door when we arrived. My heart ached at her sight, and I was lost for words. It was my daughters who melted Grandma's worries, bursting out of the house with smiles. Grandma, come in quick. We're having a party today. It's a welcome party for Grandma, Dad said so. Sis and I decorated your room. And there's cake too. Look, look. Lila, Marla. Melanie, welcome home. Lucas. Touched by the welcome from my daughter and Lucas, Mom's eyes moistened. I too wiped away hidden tears. Mom's insurance money from Dad, and nearly everything else, had been siphoned off to support Ralph's family. It seemed they let Mom go because there was nothing left to exploit. Really, they're just the worst. And so it began our life with Mom. Initially, I worried about burdening Lucas, despite his kindness in taking Mom in. But that concern quickly vanished. Because Mom's housekeeping skills were incredible. Coming home from work, I'd find delicious smells, a clean house, and neatly folded laundry. When I realized vegetables were growing in planters what used to be full of random flowers, and my vegetable-hating daughter was happily harvesting and munching on them. Before I knew it, Mom had even become friends with the neighbors, chatting in gardens I had never visited. Not wanting to leave everything to Mom, I joined her in the kitchen when work was less demanding. But I couldn't come close to matching her efficiency and flair. I used to be terrible at housework. My mother-in-law always scolded me. Mom would say, and laughing. Eating her perfect dishes, I was constantly reminded of Mom's incredible skills as a homemaker and the effort it took to get there. Thanks to Mom's magic like homemaking, Lucas and I could fully dedicate ourselves to work. Especially Lucas, who, since Mom moved in, his sales performance significantly improved and even topped the branch for the first time. "Melanie is like a goddess of fortune," Lucas said with admiring eyes, while Mom just chuckled. On weekends, no longer filled with chores meant more time with the kids. The newfound ease in Mom and Dad's lives brought more smiles to our children's faces during the weekdays. There have been other changes too, but living with Mom has definitely been a positive for us. Of course, we still have things to adjust to with each other, but work and private life are going almost frighteningly well. On the other hand, things haven't been going well for Ralph and his wife since Mom left. After Mom's departure, Cheryl initially enjoyed the mother-in-law-free life, and Ralph seemed relieved seeing Cheryl so happy. But it appeared they hadn't really adjusted to a life without Mom's support. Cleaning was minimal, walls stayed dirty, and the garden was neglected. Laundry piled up for a week, washed but never put away. Garbage accumulated because sorting was too bothersome. In no time, the house turned into a neglected mess, overrun with weeds and looking like a dirty junkyard inside and out. Of course, meals were all about eating out and deliveries. Under such living conditions, it's no wonder work wasn't going well. Ralph, who had been fairly enthusiastic about his new job before kicking Mom out, fell ill often due to his unhealthy lifestyle. And faced the threat of being fired again due to constant lateness and absenteeism. The neighbors, who had been fond of the kind and sociable Mom, could never welcome Ralph and his wife. They weren't harassed, but they were definitely left out. This tragic situation of the Ralphs was relayed by Mom's friend, who lives nearby. Moreover, their house is a 45-year-old wooden structure. Without careful maintenance, it's prone to problems. The neglected water heater broke down, and Cheryl, who disliked letting others into the house, that's why it LEDs for days on end with only cold water in the winter. In spring, a wasp nest formed under the eaves, and Cheryl, who hadn't noticed, got stung badly. Of course, with Ralph and his wife's scant earnings and constant spending, money was tight. Cheryl, cooped up in her room, seemed low-cost at a glance, but it turns out she was spending about $1,000 a month on online gaming. With over half of Ralph's salary was vanishing into gaming expenses, Ralph finally realized the gravity of the situation and wanted to stop Cheryl's gaming habit. It makes daily arguments between a desperate Ralph and a Cheryl unwilling to quit. "So, I was thinking, maybe we could get Mom back." "What do you mean, so?" Just 6 months after separating from Mom, Ralph came asking to take her back, without an apology, earning nothing but contempt. Lucas, standing next to me, had an expressionless face. "It's just that ever since Mom left, it's been one misfortune after another." "It's not misfortune, it's just the result of your own actions. Wouldn't things be solved if Cheryl did some housework and got a job?" "That's, well." Ralph glanced at Cheryl, who averted her eyes. Clearly, Cheryl had no intention of doing anything, just wanting Mom back as a convenient slave. Nothing but contempt for the selfish and dependent Ralph couple. At that moment, Mom appeared from the living room. Though I had told her she could stay hidden, the commotion over her must have piqued her interest. "Ralph, my child." Mom's face was expressionless too. Yet Ralph happily addressed her. "Mom. You heard, right? You want to return to the house Dad built, don't you? Cheryl, too, says it's better with you around. Cheryl, is that true? Well, yeah. Cheryl mumbled a response, looking down. Despite her clear lack of enthusiasm, Ralph said. See, Cheryl is happy too. Let's go home. He reached out his hand to Mom. Mom gazed at Ralph's hand. Mom, who cherished the house she had with her husband. Mom, who couldn't quite abandon Ralph. My heart raced at the thought of the compassionate Mom returning to Ralph's side again. But the next moment, Mom swatted his hand away. I'm not going back. What? I never want to live with you two again. Mom! Mom! I exclaimed in surprise, and Ralph in despair. Why? Your son is in trouble. You used to say that parents should help their children when they fail. As Ralph lamented and Cheryl looked on in shock, Mom spoke calmly. I used to think that too. But I was wrong. What? Living with Allegra and her husband made me see. When Allegra failed, her husband Lucas supported her, and when Lucas and I had awkward moments, Allegra, as his wife, would step in and resolve them. That's what marriage is about, supporting and growing with each other. Mom. I felt tears welling up at Mom's words. It was also my fault for not letting go. I thought that as a mother, I was responsible for my son's actions regardless how old he gets. But I realized that by always stepping in, I was robbing you of the chance to grow as people and as a couple. You're 40 now. Your time of parental obligation is long past. Clean up your own mess. But Mom... Rejected by Mom, Ralph, a big man, flustered in a way he'd never imagined. Ignoring him, Mom turned to Cheryl, who was irritably biting her nails. Cheryl, the promise to be a housewife forever was only with Ralph. I have no obligation to take care of a stranger. You don't have to work, but live a life that suits that choice. Cheryl glared at Mom resentfully. But Mom didn't care anymore. Ralph, you inherited that house. You can continue living there or sell it. But I'm done doing anything for you and your wife. But Mom, I... Go home. And don't ever show your face to me again. Frightened by Mom's ferocity for the first time, Ralph fled. Cheryl, left behind, glared at us fiercely before following Ralph. Oh. Mom, drained, slumped to the ground. Before I could rush to her, Lucas was already at her side. Ah, that felt refreshing. Nice job, Mom. Lucas offered his hand with a smile, and Mom grasped it, smiling happily. However, the Ralph couple, still dependent on others, didn't change easily. Ralph, devastated by Mom's rejection, neglected his job even more. Cheryl didn't work, eventually resorting to loans for gaming expenses. By the time Ralph noticed Cheryl's debt, it was too late. Debt collectors came every day, the house was seized for unpaid taxes, and the couple, with nowhere to go, declared bankruptcy. Ralph was fired again and now works long hours at a live-in factory in the mountain, where taught by scary people. Of course with Cheryl. Cheryl, unaccustomed to real work, seems to be going insane every day in the harsh labor and internet-free environment. Ralph frightened by her craziness. I want to divorce and return. He begged, but I replied. The family home you took was auctioned off because of you. You have no place to return to, so live happily ever after with Cheryl. Then he broke down crying pitifully. How foolish. The only brother I share blood with, but that's all I can think. 7 years later. Celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary, my husband and I were on a trip to Anchorage. Mom suggested we celebrate as a couple while she looked after the kids. Our middle school daughters, still adoring Grandma, were excited about a pajama party with her, posting on social media. Lucas and I have been successful in our careers, with him in a significant position at headquarters and me working hard as a branch manager. We're grateful to Mom for supporting our lives, and to kind-hearted Lucas for living harmoniously with her. Ah, I wish we could go to the zoo too. Anchorage is too big, so it can't cover in just a 2-night, 3-day trip. We can come back for the next anniversary again. Thinking of a future still together in 5-10 years. I felt fortunate to have met Lucas, munching happily on delicious food. Happy birthday! Make sure you eat it all. What was presented in front of me was a surprise birthday cake made by my mother-in-law, Kyla. It was extravagantly topped with whipped cream, so that the strawberries were buried under a mountain of it. The moment I saw it, I caught my breath. I've mentioned I'm allergic to dairy, haven't I? Oh, did you? It's fine. Your body will get used to it if you eat it. It's life-threatening for me. Haven't you been intentionally using allergens in your cooking? Stop complaining. Be grateful for what I've prepared. Kyla had always found reasons to summon my husband Alan and me to her house, eager to feed us her home cooking. However, the dishes she prepared were invariably made with dairy products, which I couldn't consume. Unable to eat much, I sipped tea while Kyla and Alan dined merrily, a situation that left me feeling frustrated. Yet, I endured without a frown. However, it was my birthday party she hosted that would lead to Kyla's misfortune. I'm Tiana, 30 years old. After dating for 2 years, Alan and I got married this summer. We had lived together for a year before our marriage, so life as newlyweds was not much different than before. But one thing had been bothering me since we started dating: Kyla's presence. She doted on her son Alan and seemed to want to be near him at all times. She frequently barged into our apartment where we lived together. If the relationship were good, it might have been natural to accept her, but our relationship was far from amicable. She always focused on Alan, interrupting my words and enjoying conversations with her son. Having never interacted with the parents of anyone I dated before, I questioned her behavior, thinking it was just how things were. But there were things that struck me as odd. Tiana, let's go to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park for the long weekend next month. That sounds great. The foliage should be beautiful, and it's been a while since we last visited. That sounds fun. I want to come too. Then let's go, the 3 of us. Mom and us. Tiana, that's okay with you, right? Yeah, sure. Tiana, you're so kind. We need to pull it down on the calendar as soon as we get home. In this way, the intrusive Kyla would try to tag along on our trips. She suggested numerous hotels to stay at, and before I knew it, she and Alan were making plans together. Once the plan was set, Tiana, could you handle the bookings? She'd say, leaving the rest of the arrangements to me. And when it was time to depart for the trip, she wouldn't even take out her wallet for anything, from the travel expenses to meals and even souvenirs. At that time, Alan and I weren't officially married yet. Can we split the cost? I'd do the same for your parents if they needed anything. When he said that, I couldn't object strongly, so I had no choice but to agree and pay. Despite the frustrations with Kyla, Alan was always kind to me, and we spent peaceful times together when it was just the 2 of us. So, when he proposed, I happily decided to marry him. However, even after our marriage, Kyla's behavior was something I couldn't ignore. On our days off, as we relaxed at home, Alan's mobile phone would ring. Oh, Mom. It's you. Did you make too much food again? Okay, I'll ask Tiana. Putting the call on hold, Alan would ask me. Mom's made too much for dinner, she's asking if we want to come. That's okay, right? Again? We just went through the same routine 3 days ago, visiting Kyla's house. And we've already been over there 8 times this month. Come on. It'll save you the trouble of cooking. I'll let her know we're coming. Wait. I didn't agree to this. I've already told her and hung up. Let's get ready and leave once you've changed. Invitations to dinner from Kyla were unnervingly frequent. In the past, she ran a cooking class and was a first-class cook, and even now, being alone after father-in-law passed away, she tended to make lavish feasts. Still, having to share a meal with her nearly half of the month was stressful, and when I tried to discuss it with Alan, Mom must be lonely by herself. Let's just keep her company for meals. He'd brush it off lightly. But when he saw I wasn't convinced, he looked into my eyes and spoke gently. Tiana, it must be hard preparing meals every day, especially with your busy job. I want you to relax a bit. Don't worry about it. All right, thank you. I knew Alan genuinely cared for me. However, my biggest concern was that the meals always included dairy products, which I'm allergic to. I've been allergic to dairy since childhood, unable to ingest milk, butter, or even bread. Accidental consumption would lead to nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Kyla's home-cooked meals were full of dairy, including stews, cream pasta, and homemade bread with plenty of milk. It seemed intentional. Tiana, you're not eating anything. Don't you like my cooking? It's not that. I have a dairy allergy, as I've mentioned before. Could that be? Well, it's okay, you'll get used to it if you introduce it to your body slowly. Alan, there's more, so don't hold back and eat plenty. This pasta is awesome as always. Tiana, you should eat too. Yeah. Do these two not understand the severity of an allergy, persistently urging me to eat? However, unable to eat, I would often just sip the tea served, distracting myself from the hunger. Meanwhile, Kyla would chat happily with Alan, enjoying the meal with a beaming smile. Such incidents were common, causing me to fret over her overbearing attitude towards Alan and her problematic cooking. Once, unable to hold back, I brought this up with Alan. Do you think Kyla is deliberately making dishes I can't eat? That's impossible. She went through the trouble of making it, and I think it's a problem that you don't eat, Tiana. Don't say that. You understand my allergy issue. Yes, but remember, you've accidentally eaten allergens in food other than Mom's cooking before? It never led to anything serious, so don't overthink it. That may be true, but... Indeed, I've unintentionally eaten dairy when dining out. Dairy is so pervasive in dishes that sometimes it's unavoidable. Yet, I couldn't help but feel malice in Kyla's cooking. Once, she served fried chicken for dinner, and thinking it was safe, I ate it, only to find out the batter contained dairy. Soon after, I was overwhelmed with vomiting and severe abdominal pain, becoming unable to leave the bathroom. Are you complaining about my cooking that much? There's a limit to sarcasm. Kyla, showing her anger, confronted me as I finally emerged from the bathroom. It's not that. I think there was dairy in the batter of the fried chicken. It made me sick. The way you say it sounds like I did it on purpose. Alan grew up on my cooking. If you can't stand it, you won't get along with him in the future. If you're going to break up, better do it sooner than later. That's a different issue. No. Even if we have grandchildren in the future, they won't grow up healthy because of your picky eating. I wanted to seek Alan's help, but he wasn't there as he was taking a shower. You should go home first. I'll tell Alan you felt sick and sent you home. That day, I went home alone, and for weeks after, the persistent invitations from Kyla ceased completely. If it meant keeping some distance, I didn't mind her disliking me. Then, a month before my birthday, Alan made a suggestion. It's Tiana's first birthday since we got married. How about we go to a hot spring? That's wonderful. Of course, I'll go. Look forward to it. The trip is my gift to you. Okay. Thank you, as always. What's this all of a sudden? I'll make it luxurious since it's a special occasion. I was overjoyed by Alan's sentiment. The reservations were made without a hitch, and all that was left was the day of the trip. However, 2 days before the trip, I received a call from Kyla. Tiana. It's been a while. It's unusual for you, Kyla, to contact me. What a sarcastic tone. I'm calling to host a birthday party for you. What? It's your birthday in 2 days, right? Melissa is coming back that day. How about we all have dinner together? Melissa is Alan's sister, currently living far away due to her job transfer. I met her for the first time at my wedding, but we haven't seen each other since. She was refreshingly bright, and just from one glance, I could tell she was a good person and I wanted to talk to her more. However, Alan had planned a trip for my birthday. Can I confirm with Alan before answering? He'll say yes. You're the star, so I'll wait especially for you. Make sure to reply by tomorrow. After her purpose was served, Kyla unilaterally ended the call. I have a bad feeling about this. Despite my intuition, I had to check with Alan, so I brought up the birthday party when he got home. Melissa is coming back. That's great, let's go. But what about our trip? I was really looking forward to it. We can go anytime. But things haven't been going well with Kyla recently, and I'm not really feeling up to it. Mom wants to get closer to you, Tiana. She wouldn't host a birthday party otherwise. It's a good opportunity to accept her invitation. All right. I understand. Disappointed to cancel the trip, I decided to attend the birthday party hosted by Kyla. On the day of my birthday, dressed a bit more fashionably, I went to her house, where a lot of homemade dishes were already laid out on the table. My sister-in-law Melissa was also busy setting plates and preparing drinks. Melissa, it's been a long time. Tiana, I'm so happy to see you. Happy birthday! Let's talk a lot today. Just like the first time we met, she was indeed a bright and charming woman. Though things weren't going well with Kyla, I felt that I could have a good relationship with Melissa. Now that everyone is here, shall we start? Tiana, happy birthday! We all held our glasses and toasted. It was heartwarming to receive so many well wishes. Tiana, eat as much as you like today. But we also have a cake, so don't overdo it and save some room. Mom, isn't it a bit much? It's Tiana's special birthday, of course. Seeing her smiling more than usual, I felt somewhat relieved. The homemade dishes lined up before me were extravagant, from fried chicken to potato salad, roast beef, and even a scattered sushi, quite a feast. However, I couldn't help but feel that some of these might contain allergens, and once again, I couldn't bring myself to eat much. Still, reuniting with my sister-in-law and her husband made for lively conversations and an enjoyable time. Before I knew it, the sun had set, and it was 7 p.m. Then Kyla stood up and headed towards the kitchen. After a while, the lights suddenly went out, and Kyla approached with a cake, its candles lit. Everyone naturally started singing happy birthday in unison. Despite my age, I was genuinely delighted, bashfully clapping and savoring the joy. Tiana, please blow out the candles. All right. After I blew them out, Alan turned the lights back on. Then the cake became clearly visible, and I exclaimed, "Is this?" Kyla's homemade cake was extravagantly frosted with whipped cream, and as if that wasn't enough, more whipped cream was piped on top, concealing the strawberries entirely. Happy birthday! Make sure you eat it all. Unconcerned about my grimace, Kyla spoke with a direct gaze and a smile. The situation was so obviously intentional that I couldn't hide my irritation. This cake. I baked the sponge myself, you know? Took quite some time, so it must be delicious. I'll cut and serve it now. Before I could respond, she was about to forcefully plate it. But this was a precious moment, and I decided it was time to be straightforward. As I clenched my fists and was about to speak, an unexpected person addressed Kyla. Tiana's allergic to dairy, right? Melissa, who had been smiling until then, asked Kyla sharply, her expression now stern. Was she? Mom, you told me over the phone before. Do you understand how dangerous allergies are? They can be fatal. Really? Didn't you realize the severity, Alan? There are many people in the world who die from eating allergens. You can't take this lightly. I was touched that Melissa came to my rescue when I was in trouble. And I was overwhelmed with gratitude for her conveying the dangers of allergies. That varies from person to person. Tiana said she can eat a little without any issues. I never said that. In fact, I've always stated I can't eat it. Don't lie. Fine. Everyone else can share the cake. If you don't like it, just watch enviously. Even after all this, Kyla refused to understand, and I was truly infuriated. Regardless, her plan was either to make me sick from eating the cake or to isolate me for not eating it. I was ready to retaliate forcefully, but once again, the situation took an unexpected turn. Mom, enough already. Did you even listen to her? What's gotten into you, Alan? This is nothing new. Don't joke around. This is life-threatening. Are you saying it's okay if Tiana dies? That's not what I mean. She's been fine eating it before. So don't be so harsh. Let's serve Alan first. Stop it. I don't want to eat a cake with malice. Tiana, I'm sorry. I should have understood your allergy better. It's okay. I appreciate you understanding. Kyla, please take the cake away. Then, she made an outrageous statement, further intensifying the tension in the room. If you're going to be like that, I'll give up on making you eat it. Instead, how about we do a face cake? You know, like comedians do on variety shows, burying their face in the cake for a laugh. In my shock, I couldn't immediately respond, but what she said next was even worse. If it's just on your face, it won't be life-threatening, right? How about we take a group photo with it? It will make a wonderful memory. That's not funny. Stop making a mockery of me. What's wrong? I'm just making a suggestion. Tiana, you never seem to go along with everyone else. Why would you use an allergen I can't eat in the first place? You've been doing this on purpose all this time, haven't you? So what? What's wrong with that? Alan loves stew and cream pasta. With such picky eating, how can my son be happy with you, Tiana? It's boring if you won't eat the food I make, and I'm at my limit with you. He understands my allergy and married me. It's not the same as being picky. You've been causing me trouble all this time, and I won't forgive you for that. Make a fuss if you want. If you don't like it, you can leave. Facing her unrepentant attitude, I delivered a decisive blow. Understood. I'll sever ties with you. I won't associate with you from now on. That's fine by me. It's actually a relief. I'm cutting ties with you too. Alan, what are you saying? I accepted the birthday party because I thought it was a kind gesture. I didn't give you money for the ingredients just so you could harass her. Sorry. So, stop being angry, will you? It's too late. I regret sending money every month to make your life a bit easier. I always thought the dinner invitations were a thank you for the living expenses, not to trouble her. I really misjudged you. In fact, ever since father-in-law passed away, he had been giving her $500 every month. This was out of gratitude for raising him and because she claimed the Social Security survivor benefits weren't enough. Feeling that his goodwill had been trampled on, he was furious. I have no intention of seeing my mother again. Tiana, let's go home. He immediately stood up, grabbed his bag, and headed to the entrance. As I picked up my things and was about to leave, Kyla clung to me. I'm really sorry. Please stop, Alan, please. Let me go. It's too late for apologies. What you did to me constitutes assault. Be grateful I'm not pressing charges. Wait. My comfort is spending time with him. Ignoring Kyla's tearful pleas, I left the house. Walking home together, he apologized again. Tiana, I'm really sorry. I'll be more careful from now on. In the days that followed, both Alan and I received numerous calls from Kyla on our mobile phones. We ignored the dozens of calls, and eventually, they stopped. The birthday incident brought Melissa and me closer, and we started to communicate frequently. I apologized for leaving early that day. Leaving was the right choice. I would have done the same. She kindly reassured me, a gentle sister-in-law. She was also appalled by Kyla's behavior and had distanced herself. Kyla, abandoned by her beloved children and left lonely, lost the energy to cook her favorite dishes and resorted to eating ready-made meals. Spending her twilight years in darkness and solitude was her own fault. Meanwhile, without Kyla's interference, my husband and I finally had time to ourselves. He rebooked the birthday trip he had canceled, and we created happy memories. We intend to continue enjoying our life together as a loving couple. Why are you even here? I smiled sweetly at my husband, who was pointing and yelling at me, sitting at the attorney's bench in the courtroom. My husband, causing a commotion, was cautioned by the judge. He reluctantly fell silent, but his eyes were still glaring fiercely. It's your fault for having an affair and getting sued for alimony in this divorce case. To think it even led to a trial. As I calmly pointed to the evidence and cornered my husband, he slumped, utterly dejected. But this trial is not the end. I will pursue you relentlessly. Be prepared. I murmured quietly to myself. My name is Scott, I'm 48 years old and a lawyer. I married my husband George 21 years ago. He runs a company, and we were both busy with work, so we chose a child-free life. Instead, we made as much time as possible for each other, going to movies and traveling. George once dreamt of becoming a movie director. Though that dream never materialized, he started a video production company after we got married. In recent years, he became busy with a new venture, and before I knew it, our time together had dwindled. Still, as a couple in our late 40s, I thought this was to be expected and didn't worry much about it. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine he was having an affair. The future I vaguely envisioned, growing old together, was suddenly shattered. Scott, can you take over this case for me? Thanks. 3 months ago, my boss assigned me a divorce case involving a claim for alimony. Our law firm handles many divorce cases, so it wasn't an unusual assignment. If the husband is cheating, he should just settle the alimony before it goes to trial. In this case, the husband is suing his wife for divorce and alimony due to her affair, and also making claims against her lover. The divorce is already settled, and the wife has finished paying the alimony. However, the issue is with her lover, a company president with substantial wealth, who insists he's not responsible and refuses to pay the alimony. Initially, another lawyer in my firm was handling this case, but he got swamped with other matters, and it was passed to me since I had some free time. During the handover, Paul apologetically mentioned, "This guy is quite a piece of work. Looks down on everyone else." That statement had slightly bothered me. A tricky cheater, huh? I wonder what kind of person he is. As I was going through the documents handed to me to check the defendant, to my astonishment, the name written there was George, my husband. It seems neither my boss nor my colleagues had realized this. What does this mean? He was having an affair behind my back? I double-checked the documents several times, thinking it might be someone with the same name, but the workplace matched his company, and even the birth date and address were correct. I remembered, a few months ago, he who were back home unusually early asked me, "Your firm handles a lot of divorce cases, right?" "Yes, but why?" "A friend of mine is in trouble. He's been sued for alimony over an affair, and he's not happy with the amount." "What happens if he doesn't want to pay?" "Usually, they start with a lawyer and try to settle, but if that fails, it'll go to civil mediation if it's between a husband and the affair partner." "Oh? So it doesn't go straight to court?" "It can, but most people don't want to because it's costly and time-consuming. So, many give up and settle even after going through mediation." "Huh. So you don't have to pay?" Come to think of it, there was a precedent where they didn't have to pay even after going to the Supreme Court. I forgot when it was. "What? You don't have to pay even if it goes to court?" At that moment, his peculiar delight made me feel uneasy. But if someone's breaking up a family, they should make amends, I think. "Who's this friend?" "You wouldn't know him, Scott." No matter how much I asked, he refused to disclose the friend's name. Was that conversation actually about himself? Unbelievable. I was so happy that night, thinking we could finally have dinner together after a long time. It seemed he only wanted information that would benefit him. According to the documents, the affair between my husband and the other woman started 5 years ago when she was hired as an accountant at his company. That was about the time he started saying he was busy with a new business, leading to more overtime and business trips. So that was it. But I also didn't notice the changes in my husband as my workload increased with more cases to handle. The affair came to light 6 months ago when the other woman's husband found out. The discussion between the woman, her husband, and the distribution of property, and the amount of alimony in the divorce case caused some friction, but it was quickly resolved through mediation by a colleague lawyer and didn't go to court. However, around the same time, the husband filed a claim for alimony against George, the affair partner. "I don't want to pay." He refused. He dodged the issue during mediation as well, refusing to acknowledge any responsibility for the alimony. I never imagined he would use the information I gave him in such a way, and anger surged within me. So, he was cheating and using me all along. I won't let this go easily. That's why I decided to divorce him and press on relentlessly. In situations like this, lawyers are not supposed to handle cases involving their own family members. But there's an exception if the client agrees. I immediately contacted the client, Randy. "You're George's wife?" The next day, at the cafe where we met, Randy was quite surprised as I explained the situation. "Yes. And with your consent, I'd like to handle this case." "Wouldn't that mean you'd conduct the trial favorably for your husband?" "That will absolutely not happen. Because once this trial is resolved, I plan to immediately file for divorce myself. I have no intention of being cheated on and just letting it slide. I plan to fight back, as a wife and as a lawyer, with my pride on the line." "If you're that determined, please, take the case." Randy, sensing my resolve, officially asked me to represent him. But George has been consistently refusing to pay the alimony. It's terrible considering he's a wealthy company president and not in need of money. I'm not after the alimony. I want him to properly apologize for destroying our family. Randy clenched his fists and bit his lip in frustration. The discussion between Randy and his wife about the distribution of property already favored him due to the affair admission and photographic evidence, so the matter was already settled. I really wanted to end all this as quickly as possible and forget about it. But I just can't let it go like this. Your feelings are completely justified. George, being a business owner, is clever and can talk his way out of anything. I'm just a simple salaryman. Can I even compete? Not at all. People who believe they are clever often make trivial mistakes in unexpected places. I will make sure to corner him, just leave it to me. Our marriage wasn't going well to begin with, and he even said he doesn't see the point in paying alimony. That wasn't the case. If George hadn't laid a hand on my wife, we would have been fine. The frustration in Randy's tone was palpable. Naturally, no one wants to go through a costly and time-consuming trial. George probably looks down on Randy, a company employee, thinking he can get away with anything because he's a wealthy president. That's what I felt. George was kind and wonderful before our marriage. But after he became independent and started his own business 15 years ago, money started flowing in, and he gradually changed. The places we dined at shifted from local bars to upscale restaurants, and eventually, he started saying that those who eat at cheap places are poor. Whenever I admonished him, he initially blushed and apologized, but eventually, "These are bottom feeders who can't even start their own business," he started saying. His company was thriving, and perhaps he got carried away. But success in business isn't always a given. As a lawyer, having seen many who failed yet managed to recover, I believed he would eventually come to realize this. Yet, he seems to have become more arrogant than I ever imagined. Luckily, or unfortunately, he's still unaware that I know about his affair. Just watch, I won't let this go. I contacted someone to gather compelling evidence against him, and prepared meticulously for days for the trial. On the day of the court hearing, as I sat in the courtroom with Randy, George entered, pointed at me, and yelled, "Why are you even here?" I will be representing Randy. I'm Scott, the attorney in charge. Your lawyer has been informed about the change of representation. George glanced at his lawyer in disbelief, who nodded in confirmation. You probably outsourced everything to the company's legal advisor, not bothering to check who the new attorney was. That's ridiculous. I don't accept you being in charge. I have the client's consent. Your consent, as the defendant, is not needed in this case. I don't care. Change the lawyer. He, causing a commotion, was quieted by the judge but kept glaring at me. It's your fault for having an affair and getting sued for alimony. To think it even led to a trial. Throughout the trial, I shouldn't have to pay alimony for the affair, he persistently claimed. It's not my fault we got divorced. Insisting on just that one point. He probably researched Supreme Court precedents based on my information. But he misunderstood them. There's a Supreme Court decision saying you don't have to pay, so I don't see why I should. Indeed, a previous case did dismiss a claim for alimony due to mental distress caused by an affair. See. He sat back, smug and confident. Are you aware of the rest of that precedent? While it's true that alimony for mental distress was not granted, claims for alimony due to the affair itself are valid. What? George, looking dumbfounded, while his lawyer scrambled to check the precedent. No company lawyer, however proficient in corporate law, can match a divorce specialist. And so, the trial concluded with him ordered to pay $30,000 in alimony for the affair. It's a court decision, so non-payment now risks liens or enforcement actions. Realizing he couldn't escape, his shoulders slumped in defeat. But this isn't the end. I will continue to pursue this thoroughly. Be prepared. From that day on, he never returned home. I expected as much. So, the next day, I sent a petition for our divorce trial to his company, along with certain documents. Please, no more trials. I'll pay the alimony for the divorce as you demand. A few days later, summoned by my husband, I went to his company's meeting room with a colleague lawyer. As soon as he saw me, he apologized to me. Oh, so you'll also properly handle the distribution of property, as I suggest. That's. Investigations revealed my husband's personal assets exceeded $5 million. This was because he cleverly funneled company money into his pocket and, unbeknownst to me, had made me a company officer, drawing a monthly salary of $8,000. The assets you built after marriage are jointly owned, right? Splitting them would make me a millionaire. And I was an officer. I had no idea. That's a tax-saving measure every company practices. Maybe, but isn't it strange that I, the concerned party, was unaware? Is that all just for tax savings? There are quite some suspicious money movements. Maybe this lawyer here and the accountant lady knew about it? The lawyer beside him averted his gaze upon meeting my eyes. You realize such actions could strip you of your lawyer's license, right? I've already reported this to the Bar Association. His lawyer turned pale and trembled, aware of the gravity of his actions. Of course, you're prepared for the company to collapse due to these illegalities, right? I just had an affair. I apologize to you, and I've long split up with that woman. Why does the company have to go down too? Because I am a lawyer. I can't overlook the wrongdoings I've found. How? And how did you get the company's internal documents? You conspired with the company's president, the legal advisor, and the accountant lady to commit fraud. But there are still people in the company who can't tolerate such corruption. The person I had contacted before was the company's vice president. He had supported George and built up the company from the start, but could no longer bear his changing nature. So, when I reached out and explained the situation, he readily cooperated. The vice president wept, hoping you'd return to your original, pure intentions. He did what? And yet, you found the vice president, who cautioned you, bothersome, and threatened to fire him. That's because he nagged me over using some company money. You too. Just because you're a lawyer, you act all high and mighty. He lashed out at me in frustration, so I was about to say something right back, but my colleague lawyer calmed me down. Then, the colleague presented him with divorce papers and a settlement document. If you sign these divorce papers and the agreement now, we can avoid a trial. So, you'll forgive everything? Yes, I'll forgive the affair. Fine. He, relieved to avoid a trial, signed the documents, ignoring his own lawyer's protests. Done signing. Is this okay? Yes. But I'll report the embezzlement from this company to the police, as it's a criminal matter. What? That's not what you promised. You said you'd forgive everything. I said I'd forgive the affair. How many times do I have to say it? As a lawyer, there's no way I'd overlook a cover-up. He seemed to want to retort, but he was at a loss for words. The upcoming trial will be tough. Need a lawyer? Oh, but I've already been asked to represent the vice president. Then, I guess I'll see you in court next time. I declared this to him and his lawyer, then left the conference room with my colleague. Serve you right. I'll make sure the next trial is just as thorough, so look forward to it. My colleague gave a wry smile as I silently celebrated with a small fist pump. That's what he gets for underestimating a lawyer wife. I beamed a wide smile at my colleague. Thus, George and I divorced. We went through the distribution of property, but most of it was deemed not personal assets as it was illegally manipulated company funds. Subsequently, George and his lawyer were sued by the vice president for embezzlement and arrested. They are currently in trial, detained in jail due to the severity of the crime and risk of destroying evidence. It looks like they won't see daylight for a while. Even if they were released, the huge debt they'll face is evident. As for me, I didn't become a millionaire from the distribution of property from George, nor did I want to. Money earned rightfully by one's effort is sufficient. Moreover, my fulfillment as a lawyer comes from being able to help many people. I intend to continue dedicating myself to others, upholding the spirit of freedom and justice, equality and fairness. I want a divorce. Fine, but I'm not paying any alimony in a divorce trial, you know? You don't work, so you must not have any money. Are you okay with that? More than money, protecting my own happiness is much more important. I don't want to stay in this house, nor do I want to live with this man. I'll definitely divorce and make you regret it. My name is Carolina. I was born and raised in the countryside, 58 years old, and picking mountain vegetables becomes my hobby when the weather gets warm. I love the peaceful countryside air, but there was a time in my life when I resented being from the countryside. Back then, I was in my 20s. After graduating high school, I got a job at a local department store, a position only offered to top students. I believe I lived a more glamorous life than others my age. Then one day, my boss said, "A VIP customer is coming." And I was assigned to assist a certain individual. That was my husband, Louis. Louis's family had produced a member of parliament, and even though Louis's direct family wasn't in politics, they were a well-known local business family. As the eldest son, Louis was set to inherit the family business and had significant influence locally. However, in the larger scope, their business was just one of many competitors. In the city, they would probably be overshadowed. Yet, in our area, Louis was something like a local king. But it was this assignment in the store that led to Louis taking a fancy to me. People around me said things like, "Marrying a rich man, you're so lucky, your future is secure." But I wasn't happy at all. Louis's family, the Warners, had a lot of bad rumors because of their influence locally. Arrogant, quick to fire employees they didn't like, secretly dating several pretty female employees. How much of it was true, I, a recent high school graduate, couldn't tell. But where there's smoke, there's fire. There must be some truth to the issues they faced. Louis's approach was persistent, no, passionate, and he often waited in his car outside my workplace until I finished work. He gave me bouquets, treated me to dinners at fancy restaurants, various ways of showing his affection. However, as I talked more with Louis, I started to think. Despite all the rumors about his family, maybe he's a serious and good person? So, I started dating him, and eventually, we got married. Right after our marriage, my in-laws gifted us a house. They said it was a wedding present. I was used to more modest wedding gifts, so it surprised me. Louis accepted it as if it were normal. I realized then that we lived in different worlds. I never imagined that this house would turn out to be akin to a devil's dwelling. After moving in with Louis, his mother, Catherine, started visiting our home frequently. Mostly without a specific reason, I just had to listen to her complaints about my father-in-law, Hector, all day. Apparently, Catherine had many issues with Hector. He doesn't pay attention to her, isn't grateful, even the argument they had 10 years ago. There's no end to Catherine's unpleasant stories. Not only about Hector but also about the family driver's way of speaking, the attitude of the company secretary, even the neighbor's clothing. She found something to complain about in everything. It was stressful having to listen to these stories every time. Even it would be still acceptable if you're helping with a family business. It's a disgrace to work outside as a Warner family daughter-in-law. As she said so, I had quit my job at the department store after getting married, so I had no way to avoid her frequent visits. Initially, she visited mostly on weekdays when Louis was away, but gradually she started coming over on weekends too. That probably wasn't good. Even though we were newlyweds, Louis began spending more time away from home. Catherine doted on him. Regarding our marriage, she had said, "I wouldn't have allowed it if she wasn't a woman I approved of." And there were quite strict conditions for a marriage partner. I wasn't highly educated, from a good family, or skilled in household chores as she wanted, but my ordinary face and knowing my place were preferred. A son's wife shouldn't be opinionated, always walk behind the men of the Warner family, it seems. Perhaps because I wasn't too flashy, my ordinary face was favored. My demeanor. I was just scared to speak with someone from a powerful family, but they took it as knowing my place. Thanks to that, now I can't say, "Catherine, I've heard this complaint from you before." Half a year into the marriage, Louis hardly came home, and I started to wonder if I married him or Catherine. Then, his affair was discovered. One night, when he returned home in a company car, I accidentally witnessed from the window him kissing a woman in the back seat before parting ways. The driver didn't seem particularly flustered. As soon as they finished their exchange, the driver smoothly drove off, as if accustomed to their affairs. "Hey! What was that just now?" Naturally, I confronted Louis, who entered the house with a calm face. I couldn't forgive infidelity less than a year into our marriage, especially after such a passionate pursuit before marriage. However, his reaction was completely different from what I expected. "Don't make a fuss over one or two women. Instead, prepare dinner." I was speechless at his attitude, untying his tie and heading to the living room. He wasn't even trying to hide it, but rather being defiant. "Wait. Explain. Who was that woman?" "You're noisy. She's a woman from the company. A new employee, I'm just looking after her." "You're a high-ranking official. You're not in a position to look after new employees. What kind of care are you providing?" "Enough, I'm tired. Be quiet." With that, he forcefully shook off my hand. I was pushed hard on the shoulder and fell to the floor. Calm down. I'm displeased, I'm taking a shower." Leaving me with a cold gaze, he really went to take a shower. The sound of the shower echoing in the room felt emptily surreal, and I deeply regretted marrying such a person. The next day, Catherine, as usual, came to our house and spoke to me in a clearly bad mood. "Carolina, sit down there." "What?" Confused, I was forcibly pushed to the floor by the secretary who entered the room with her. "What is this about?" "You yelled at Louis yesterday, who was tired from work, didn't you?" "Is that what a wife does?" "How do you know that?" "But that's because I saw him kissing a woman in front of the house. It's natural to ask what that was about." "I was told by him to warn you." "Honestly." As a Warner family woman, you should turn a blind eye to one or two outside women. Are you saying I should tolerate infidelity and pretend not to see it? Great men in the past had many women. That's what it means to have power. I can't accept this. This family is really strange. That's it. I'm divorcing Louis. Saying it out loud made me tear up for the first time. Despite everything, I did love Louis. I never imagined choosing to leave him in such a manner on our wedding day, but there's no way I'll allow that. What nonsense are you talking about? I involuntarily shrank back at Catherine's furious demeanor. After a heavy sigh, Catherine took out her mobile phone and made a call to somewhere. Hi, yes, sorry Hector. Could you come home for a moment? Is it okay now? Yes, understood. As soon as she hung up the phone, she glared at me and said, "We're going to our house." Despite my resistance, I was forcibly dragged by the secretary, put in a car, and taken to my in-laws' house. Or more precisely, to the barn of my in-laws' house. Shortly after our arrival, Hector, father-in-law, also appeared. It seems he was the one Catherine had called earlier. "Carolina, you said you wanted a divorce?" Hector sneered at me. "Yes. I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. We can't have a scandal of a Warner family man being left by his wife." "I don't care about that." Just as I tried to argue back, he grabbed my hair. "Listen, what I and Louis say is absolute. You have no right to refuse. Understand that until you calm down." Saying this, he roughly let go of my hair, and I staggered backward. "Let's go," Hector commanded. "Just do your duty." Catherine left these words behind and walked out of the barn with Hector. Hearing the sound of the key, I realized I was locked in. Panicking, I banged on the door and screamed to be let out, but someone who seemed to be the secretary said through the door, "I'm afraid that's not possible," and then ignored me completely. 12 hours later, locked in the hot and humid barn, I was on the verge of dehydration when I was finally released. Exhausted, Catherine asked me, "Have you calmed down?" and handed me a bottle of water. Drinking the water hastily made me feel sick, and I was too exhausted to think. Far from calming down, I couldn't think of anything. Led by Catherine into the house, I saw Louis and a woman next to him. "Have you reflected?" "Carolina, I'm willing to forgive you if you have. I still like you." Seeing his smiling face made my spine chill. "No, I can't have a conversation with this person. And, starting today, this lady will live with us too. This is Lisa. Get along." Looking at the woman, I vaguely remembered the scene. This woman was the one he was kissing. "What are you thinking? Why do I have to live with your affair partner?" Hey, are you saying you have a problem with that?" "Of course I do. This is weird, this house is wrong, not just you, Catherine and Hector too, everyone." The atmosphere in the room froze with my words. But I didn't think I was wrong at all. "How dare you? To disrespect not just Louis but Hector too." Catherine's anger was calmed by Louis saying, "It's okay. You said you wanted a divorce? Do you know what will happen to you and your family if you divorce?" His cold gaze met my defiant stare. "I'll take you up on that, let's get divorced." "Fine, but I won't pay any alimony in a divorce trial, you know? You don't work, so you must not have any money. Are you okay with that?" Louis smiled creepily. He thinks threatening me with money will make me return. It must have always been like this. "Even so, please divorce me." As I answered, Louis sighed and instructed Lisa, "Take the paper in the back right of that drawer." Lisa stood up, took a paper from the drawer as instructed, and handed it to him. "Here. Dad said to threaten women with this when necessary. My part is already filled out. Use it as you like." The paper handed to me was a signed divorce application, just as he said. "Good, I'll proceed with this immediately and cut ties with this house. If you regret it, it's not my problem," he said, to which I replied firmly, I won't regret it, I'm sure. Dragging my weakened body, I headed to the courthouse. Wait. With such a dirty look, even if you're pretending to be someone else, if a woman from the Warner family is seen walking outside at night, it'll be a shame, so use our car. I'll provide a driver for you. Hector's words made me visibly frown. Are they planning to lock me in the car and take me somewhere? Then, at that moment, the secretary, Casey, I'll do it, raised her hand to volunteer. She had been accompanying me on shopping trips ever since I got married. He then ordered Casey. Then you go. Trusting Casey, I got into the car and submitted the divorce papers. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected call from Louis. The first thing, he shouted. Don't mess around. What's the matter? All of a sudden. Don't play dumb. You're the culprit. Because of you, we're losing business partners. What are you going to do about it? That's exactly what I wanted. I'm glad to hear that. Irritated by my laughter. I'll destroy your family's home, shouted Louis. Actually, when I submitted the divorce papers. Please use this. Casey handed me a pen in the car. Inside it was footage of me being lectured by Catherine about Louis's infidelity, being forcibly taken to the car by a male secretary, and then locked in the barn. It also included the moment Louis said he wanted to live with his mistress. Casey's sister was almost forced to become Hector's mistress and was fired from the group company when she refused. Casey and her sister had different last names due to their parents' divorce, so no one realized they were sisters. She had been waiting for a chance for revenge, always carrying a pen-shaped mini-camera in her breast pocket just in case. Your treatment by Carolina was too harsh. I like you because you're kind and always thank the secretary. This should keep your family safe. Feel free to use it as you wish. Please take it with you, she said, entrusting me with the data. With this perfect material, I contacted a friend who worked at a publishing house to expose the reality of that house. I had planned to do this after the divorce anyway, but I was thankful to have evidence of the terrible treatment I received. I sold the data to a magazine, and the ruthless reality of the family was spread not only in magazines and newspapers but also on social media. Considering they were a family that had produced a member of parliament, even though they weren't a major corporate representative, the scandalous nature of the story attracted public attention as expected. Basically, you, exposing Dad and Mom's affair, what do you want to do? I'm exposing all the misdeeds of your family. If there's any power left in your family, I would have been completely destroyed along with my family, right? I just took up arms to protect my family. Got a problem with that? I had heard from Catherine's complaints every day that she actually has a lover. Initially, it started with Hector's infidelity, and as revenge, Catherine also cheated. Catherine, at 68 years old, had a lover in his 20s. She was quite smitten, apparently showering him with gifts. Catherine said, "If it weren't for the ties to this house, we would have been married long ago." But frankly, to the lover, Catherine was probably just a wallet. Catherine's history of affairs wasn't just with this man, apparently, there were many others in the past. While she claimed it was revenge against Hector, Catherine seemed to enjoy it just as much. It was mutual. Because of you, Dad is even saying he'll divorce Mom. It's your fault. I thought Warner family members weren't allowed to divorce. If your dad can't endure it anymore and easily changes his opinion, that's pretty small-minded. Shut up. The person who caused this shouldn't be acting so high and mighty. The cause, don't make me laugh. It's your parents who messed up with their constant affairs, and you for cheating, leading to our divorce. What will you do if this house falls apart? I'm the only one inheriting this house and company. If it continues like this, everything. I'll lose everything. Louis's voice gradually turned to tears. It's his fault, so I wish he wouldn't cry so pathetically. Duh. If you care so much about your family and company, why not just pull yourself together and rebuild them if they collapse? Don't you have any thoughts of starting over? It's unattractive to be unable to do anything unless you're at an advantage from the start. Shut up. A commoner like you couldn't possibly understand what it feels like for me, who has been burdened with the expectations of being an heir since childhood, to have my promised future taken away. Do you really think you were the only one expected to be an heir? Of course. Well, yes, you're the only decent son. What do you mean? I'm an only child, you know that. No, you have an older half-brother with a different father. What? Don't lie. What are you talking about? After our divorce, I hired a private detective who was an acquaintance of my parents. Your family is so well known that I didn't even need a detective to find all sorts of information. An older brother for me? Don't joke. I've never heard such a thing. As he was infuriated, I patiently explained to him about the existence of his brother. But it's true. Your family's former housekeeper, Joanne, you know her, right? Hector had a child with her. He was speechless at my words. Joanne, she. He was clearly interested in the familiar name I mentioned over the phone. Well, he never acknowledged the child legally because my legal wife doesn't have children yet. Catherine, who was newly married at the time, was very against it. Catherine had you, but Hector preferred Joanne's child, whom he had first. He even told people he wanted that child to inherit the family business. Eventually, that didn't happen, and reluctantly you were born as the heir. Your family is like a drama, really. At this point, Louis whispered, "That can't be true," in a small voice. But unlike before, his tone conveyed that he didn't think my story was false. Now, here's the question. Huh? Louis reacted with an obviously displeased voice when I suddenly started joking. Who really carries the blood of the Warner family? What do you mean? You are the child of Catherine's affair. What? When she found out about Joanne's pregnancy, she got back at Hector by getting pregnant with a man who was a driver at the time. That child was you. That's impossible. It's true, Hector didn't notice, but my investigation found people who knew about Catherine and your real father at the time. No. That's a lie. I'm the only heir to this house. Otherwise, what was all my effort for? Louis wailed like a child throwing a tantrum. That's why the real heir is Joanne's child. Not a drop of Hector's blood in you. If you doubt it, do a DNA test yourself. Well, it will be interesting to see what you, a stranger by blood, will do with that irredeemable house from now on. Good luck, bye-bye. I couldn't hide my smile as I cheerfully said goodbye to him and hung up the phone. Louis must have been shocked, he stayed silent. Then, my leak sparked other magazines to talk about Louis's family scandal. It was revealed that Louis was not of the Warner blood, Hector's tax evasion, and Catherine's verbal abuse to the driver. My plan worked faster than I thought. Louis's family fell into decline, closing all their businesses. Locally known as the no-good family, they fled the town and dispersed, now living modestly. While the relatives live modestly, Louis struggles to find a job due to his widespread exposure in magazines. He tried to command his former subordinates to find him work, but no one listens to a powerless Louis. His actions ended up in magazines, leaving him unemployed. Hector and Catherine divorced, entangled in disputes over alimony from the divorce. It was an ugly family till the end. As for me, I asked to be rehired at the department store where I worked before marriage. After that, I focused on my career, advancing smoothly. When I reached a certain age, I attended a middle school reunion and met a classmate attending for the first time in his 40s. He was not good at socializing and a man of few words. But his unpretentiousness was exactly what I found appealing and trustworthy. Thanks to that, my second marriage is going very well. The first marriage was full of struggles, but because of that, I learned to be discerning. Being single for a while allowed me to meet my current husband. In a way, my life hasn't been a waste. I even feel a little grateful to Louis. That's how I feel now. My name is Amy, and I turned 30 this year. Currently, I'm working in sales at an apparel brand, living a busy but fulfilling life. Today is our college reunion. Now that we're all around 30, everyone has taken their own path. Some are busy with work like me, others are married, and some even have kids. It's been years since we've all been able to gather like this. Amy! As I enter the venue, a friend spots me and waves, calling out. The gathering had already started, and my friends were huddled together, drinking. Hey, you must be tired, work's been busy, huh? Thanks, yeah. And wow, so many people turned up. We toast and catch up, sharing recent news and reminiscing. Long time no see, Amy. Turning around to the voice behind me, there was Estella, who used to be in the same club as me. It's been a while. She was always cute and charming, very popular, and I don't recall ever seeing her without a boyfriend. I'm engaged now. Really? Congratulations. Looking at her left ring finger, I saw a large diamond sparkling. A bit surprised by the ring, I expressed my congratulations, and she smiled. What about you? Not married yet? Not yet. I'm not in a hurry. Oh, that's so sad. I could tell the friend next to me was getting irritated by her words, but I subtly kept my emotions in check. It didn't bother me, and I didn't want to spoil the reunion with negativity. I'm enjoying my work for now. But you're already 30, right? The other side, knowing what was coming. She had always been like this since college. Always wanting to feel superior to others, looking down on them. My husband is super elite, you know. Look, he wanted me to have this ring. That's great for you. You were so pretty and popular in college. Maybe it's true what they say about beautiful women being too picky and missing out on marriage. I never intended that. The ultimate happiness for a woman is to marry a wonderful husband, but maybe you'll never have that chance, lol. She laughed mockingly, looking at me. Should I introduce you to a man? You must be lonely. I'm fine. I'm just too busy with work to think about marriage. Are you just pretending? You probably need someone else to make it happen for you. She left the place triumphantly, saying she would contact me again. I felt a wave of exhaustion, and my friends around me expressed their concern. She hasn't changed at all. Always wanting to be better than others, never listening. Yeah. What will you do if she contacts you about introducing a man? It's a joke, right? She's too busy for that. Even if she does, I'll decline. At that moment, I was optimistically thinking. That being engaged, she must be busy herself. But the very next day, she started sending me messages to introduce men. Of course, I refused every time. Dealing with that was a hassle in itself. One day, after finishing work and stepping outside the office. Amy. What? Waiting in front of the office was her. Seriously. You only ever send refusals, so I waited here. You haven't even been replying lately. What kind of men I prefer, what's wrong with the guys she's been trying to set me up with? These questions had become increasingly persistent recently. If I showed any preferences, I'd probably be accused of being too picky at 30, so responding had become a burden. I get it now. What do you get? That you haven't realized the joys of marriage and can't be proactive about it. So, I'm going to explain all the great things about marriage to you. With a face that showed no ill intent, she smiled. Being in front of the office, I couldn't just dismiss her coldly or ignore her. I had no choice but to lead her away, so I invited her to a restaurant. We entered the restaurant, but instead of focusing on the meal, she went on and on. About the wonders of marriage. How much she's loved. How rich her fiancé is, and even though they're only engaged, she has lots of money to spend freely. How she's a winner and I, unmarried, am a loser. How pitiful I am. And how she's doing all this for me. She sighed as she said this. See, if you stay the way you are now, you'll never find someone. That's why I'm helping you. No. I don't need it. I want you to be happy too, like me." Her smiling face seemed a bit scary. Despite her continued insistence on the joys of marriage, I firmly declined being set up with men. She seemed unsatisfied, but eventually, she seemed to give up on that. Still, she insisted on talking in person. Better than being ambushed in front of the office again, I thought, so I agreed. Amy. Sorry to keep you waiting. Then let's go." She pulled my arm and we started walking. I thought we were heading to a restaurant, but no. "Where is this?" "I took care of the arrangements, let's go." She forcefully led me to a venue for a mixer, a place for men and women to meet. She confidently tried to check us in, so I quickly pulled her arm and stopped her, somehow convincing her to step away from the venue for a moment. I grabbed her shoulder. "Hey! This is troubling. I can't do this." She, being engaged, shouldn't be at such a place either. When I stopped her, she frowned. "I came reluctantly, just for your sake. I'm only accompanying, so it's fine." "Wait. I have a boyfriend. I'm just waiting for my work to settle down before getting married. So you don't need to worry about me." Maybe it was wrong of me to stay silent until now. I never intended to publicize that I had a boyfriend, but because of that, we ended up here. "Sorry." "Oh, you don't need to pretend so much." "Excuse me. If you hate parties that much, let's go home today." "That's why you're still single." She laughed and left. I just didn't know what to do anymore. "Good work today." It's late again. Looking at my watch, it's already past 11 p.m. Getting off at the nearest station, I hurried home, but heard footsteps behind me. When I slowed down, the footsteps also slowed. When I sped up, they sped up too. Was I being followed? The thought sent chills down my spine, and I broke out in a cold sweat. In a panic, I took out my mobile phone and made a call. As the ringing continued, I prayed for a quick answer, but then someone grabbed my shoulder from behind. "Amy, right?" I turned around in fear, to see a smiling man. A stranger I didn't recognize. How did he know my name? "You must be mistaken." "What's wrong?" "We've been messaging each other every day, haven't we?" "I've been waiting for you at the nearest station," the man said, smiling. I was too confused and scared to even speak, having no idea what he was talking about. Then, "Amy." I heard a hurried voice calling my name. Turning around, there was my boyfriend Dennis, running towards me with his mobile phone to his ear. In surprise, I looked at my phone and saw it was still on a call. I must have left it on after dialing. "Dennis. Sorry I'm late." He had been waiting for me at home, but when he got my call and sensed something was wrong, he rushed out to find me. I faced the bewildered stranger with Dennis. "Excuse me, this is my girlfriend." "But how do you know her?" As I stood there scared and Dennis guarded, the man seemed confused. He claimed to have met me on a dating app. "I don't use those." I firmly denied it. "Could you show us the messages, if you have any?" The man showed his phone, and sure enough, there were messages under my name. But they weren't from me. Even Dennis, looking over my shoulder, could tell. However, the photo registered on the app was indeed mine. A deep sense of fear overcame me. Who would impersonate me and why? Then it hit me, there was one person I could think of. I explained to the man that the messages were not from me. Realizing our obvious distress and wariness, he seemed to understand and left. He hadn't intended to act like a stalker. I was too busy to meet easily. I often returned home late. And that if he waited at my nearest station, he might get to meet me. He was led to believe these messages by the impersonator. I called the person who came to mind, and she answered immediately. "Estella?" "Hi, Amy, what's up?" "I need to confirm something." "Yes?" "You haven't been impersonating me and messaging men on a dating app, have you?" I hoped I was wrong, but she just laughed off my question. "Why, how did you know?" I was planning a surprise for you once I found the right person. Surprise. She said she was messaging on the dating app on my behalf, as I'm too reserved and lazy to do it myself. Her complete lack of malice in doing so was what made it even more terrifying. Please, just stop. It's none of your business. But you must be feeling so pitiful, surely you want to be like me? She seemed genuinely convinced of this. She's really crazy. My boyfriend, who had been listening to the call, muttered in disbelief. Sorry for dragging you into this. No, it's fine. He was relieved that I wasn't alone when this happened. But what should I do? I never expected someone to be this unreasonable. The fact that she seemed so innocuous made it even more problematic. Why is she so obsessed with you? I think it's because she liked a guy I dated back in college. I heard about it long after we broke up. But why would she do this now? If she resented me, wouldn't she want me to stay single forever? She's engaged and supposedly happy, about to marry a wealthy guy. Then, maybe you should start investigating these things. My boyfriend suggested. What? Look. He showed me the screen. It was the homepage of the dating app we had seen earlier. Click here for profiles earning over $100,000, screening required. It led to another app. And what was the name of that party? He asked. Searching the name on my phone. I knew it. It was also for people earning over $100,000. Meaning she was trying to set me up with men earning less than her. Such a devious tactic. I blurted out. Then, I know this might not be the right time to say this. Yeah. As I was stressing out, he turned to face me, looking serious. And a bit nervous, making me nervous too. How about we get married? His unexpected proposal took me by surprise. Married? I've been thinking about it for a while. But you were busy with work. Now might be the right time. Getting married might stop her obsession. At least, it would put an end to her unwarranted meddling and setting up random meetups. But using you like that. And getting married for such a reason. I want to be used by you. I'm also seizing this opportunity. Maybe this timing will get you to marry me, he said with a shy smile. A month later, I called her. Amy, what's up today? I wanted to talk and thank you. Walking together, she tilted her head in confusion. Eh? For what? Here. Everyone's already gathered. Everyone? Leaving the bewildered Estella behind, I entered the restaurant. Everyone had already gathered. Sorry for making you wait, you could have started without me. We couldn't start without the guest of honor. I thanked my friends and took a glass from them, handing one to Estella too. Guest of honor. Congratulations on your marriage. Congrats. Everyone raised their glasses and started to drink. Only Estella was confused about what was happening. Maybe I had been a bit cruel. I've decided to get married. What? How? She was shocked. That time you registered me on that app without my permission. That dangerous mistake. My boyfriend said he couldn't leave me alone after that. It was also the right time as my work was settling down. I showed her the engagement ring we had picked out together. I'm sorry I didn't explain properly earlier. But I didn't think you'd believe me if I just told you. That's why I decided to invite her here. She trembled, falling silent. Amy, well done. Dennis. Then, my boyfriend arrived. He had been invited as it was a celebration of our engagement. Nice to meet you, I'm Amy's fiancé. We've been living together for a while. Thanks for giving us the push towards marriage. He smiled. Perhaps a bit too pointedly. I nudged him with my elbow to calm him down. You've been living together? Yes, he's been supporting me since I was studying for the bar exam. I want to repay his kindness, but he's too busy with his work. I'm already getting plenty of support from you. Bar exam? Yes, I'm a lawyer. He smiled.
And your salary is?
Well, it's decent. He was confident.
But.
Estella showed us her engagement ring.
It's a coincidence. I'm marrying a lawyer too.
She seemed upset that I was happy, but didn't want to admit defeat. I didn't like her sudden marriage announcement. I could sense her feelings. Oh, a fellow lawyer? Which firm? He asked.
It's on the business card.
She fumbled for her card, flustered. He checked it and frowned. Never heard of this firm. Just like he did with the app and party incident, he quickly searched on his phone. Oh? It's not here. The search only brought up similar but different names. And also, he continued, lawyers get a registration number when they become one, and in this state, it's usually 7 digits. This card has 10 digits. So, this number doesn't exist. Estella's face went pale.
You must be kidding me.
No, I'm clearly not. He replied calmly.
No, that can't be true. I've always been on dates at the top floor restaurant of a hotel, enjoying full-course meals, and I even received 100 roses on my birthday. This ring is a 2-carat diamond, after all.
She frantically called her supposed fiancé. Hey, I'm at a friend's engagement party, and they're saying there's no record of your lawyer number or your law firm. From her mobile phone, a loud angry voice shouted,
Shut up, woman!
Followed by the sound of the call being disconnected.
That can't be!
She collapsed onto the floor, sitting down without regard for her surroundings. My boyfriend then added his piece.
I have something to tell you, right here, right now. I love Amy. Her strengths and her weaknesses. I respect her dedication to the things she loves. Although she doesn't want to make a big deal out of this, impersonating someone and using their photos on an app is a criminal act. If it happens again, we'll take legal action. Just so you know. No!
Urged by my boyfriend, I turned my back on her. As I walked away, receiving congratulatory words from friends, I glanced back. She remained crumbled on the spot, biting her lips. She left soon after and didn't show up at the gathering again. Later, I heard through the grapevine that when she returned home, she found nothing there. The supposed lawyer had blocked her calls and went silent.
Recently passed the bar exam and have no money for my parents' hospital bills. I want to open my own office near our new home. I need funding for that.
Believing these words, she had quickly given him money. Not having enough in savings, she even borrowed from consumer finance companies. As for the large diamond ring she boasted about, it turned out to be a fake when appraised, something sold in a novelty store for $7. Later, Dennis and I got married. Our life didn't change much since we were already living together, but seeing my wedding ring during work always brings a smile to my face. The realization that I'm married to him fills me with joy. He respects my dedication to my work, and we support each other. What is happiness? For me, it's being married to someone who treasures me.
What are you even doing in this house? You're practically a parasite. Hey! What are you doing?
With that, my mother-in-law Scarlett threw my belongings out of the window. I retorted to her seemingly insane action.
Huh? Don't you talk back to me like that. Please pick them up.
Then she held a knife to my throat. Realizing the danger, I couldn't move a step.
Get out quickly or it won't be a joke next time.
Understood. If you insist that much, I'll leave. Scarlett, who has been harassing me since we started living together, doesn't know. She doesn't know that I'm the one supporting this house. The fear I had earlier is gone. I even feel like daring her to do her worst. I'll give you a week. Leave within that time. Thank you. I said to her, but I couldn't stop laughing. Realizing I shouldn't be noticed, I quickly returned to a serious face.
This will bring peace to the house. Very good.
Yes, indeed. How foolish can she be? Without me, this house will be far from peaceful, a hell awaits. Thus, I left Scarlett behind in the in-laws' house and moved to a condominium. She would later come to know the truth, but by then, it was too late. My name is Alexis. Now I'm working from home, utilizing my previous job experience. It's been over 5 years since I married Ethan, but...
Are you okay?
I'm sorry. I never thought this would happen.
I'm just glad you're safe.
But now, I'll be a burden on you, Alexis.
Don't think like that.
I was in the hospital room, relieved that he was safe, crying without caring about anyone else. The thing is, working in construction, he had an accident and lost almost all grip strength in his dominant hand. When I heard that, I couldn't think of anything.
Scarlett. Dear. Ethan, are you okay?
Scarlett had arrived, but she pushed me aside and rushed to Ethan. It seems she didn't even see me. We weren't necessarily on bad terms, but sometimes she prioritized Ethan over everything. It was one of those times. Oh. Alexis, you're here. I just got here too.
Well, whatever. Ethan. Let's live together at my place from now.
Huh? I let out a strange noise at her abrupt suggestion. Then she glared at me. What? Do you have a problem? No, it's just, all of a sudden.
Ethan is in this state. I can't leave him to you alone.
I was irked by her comment. There was no need for her to go that far. Then Ethan said,
Alexis has been doing enough until now. So I'm relying on her from now on too.
Thank you. Hearing his words, I thought I saw Scarlett made a face. I couldn't see it clearly, but she obviously didn't like it. But I couldn't let her win.
So come to the house as soon as you're discharged.
You too, of course. It's not like she needed to say that. Leaving everything to her, who knows what would happen.
And you'll do all the moving preparations, Alexis. All of it? That's a bit much.
That's right.
Mom, you should help out too.
I wished he had said more. However, Scarlett, probably not wanting to help, ignored his words.
I have my own things to do.
She grinned wickedly, making sure he couldn't see. It's probably not for anything good. So, living with Scarlett was decided. A month later, Ethan was discharged. I was busy with the move, so I asked Scarlett to pick up him. But it was her who told me just to get things ready. Irritated, but still tidying up.
It's not done yet, huh? I told you today's the day Ethan gets discharged. Not even here to welcome him. That's because you said.
Ethan, I told you, right? This woman prioritizes herself over you.
That's not true.
I know her intention. She's trying to embarrass me in front of Ethan, to lower my standing. But I'm determined not to fall for such an obvious plan. Ethan looked at me with a knowing, kind expression.
Mom, stop that nonsense. Unseemly. I'm saying this for your sake. That's none of your business. Wait a minute.
Scarlett chasing after Ethan in a panic was quite comical. It made me laugh out loud. Noticing that, she glared at me with a devilish face. Her glare meant nothing to me. You can just relax at home from now on.
I can't do that. I can't use my right hand, but I can't just put all the burden on you.
Even so, you just got discharged.
I won't feel at ease if I don't do something.
Ethan was determined. I had planned to let him relax for a while, but seeing his insistence, I decided to respect his wishes. Maybe start with simple cleaning? It might even be good for rehabilitation.
That makes sense. I don't know if this hand will ever be the same, but it's better than doing nothing.
But there's one condition. Absolutely no overdoing it.
Of course. If I did, you would get mad, right? You're scary when angry.
No kidding. He looked normal, just as I had imagined. Well, he might just be acting brave, not wanting to worry me. That's why I decided to work even harder, doing his share too. But I had forgotten about one person who would interfere.
Hey, Alexis!
Yes?
Why is Ethan cleaning?
He offered to help and...
Did you force him to do it?
Scarlett only sees and judges based on what's in front of her. She has no idea of the thoughts and feelings behind it. She should try being in our shoes for once.
Anyway, you just lock yourself in a room and play all day. It must be nice to only have fun, especially when your husband is seriously injured.
I am working, you know. It's called remote work. Yeah, I know.
Spare me the excuses.
It's not an excuse. Then she threw a nearby trash can at me. It didn't hit me, but trash scattered everywhere. I gave up explaining. There's no point in talking to someone who doesn't want to listen.
Clean up this dirty mess yourself.
Sighing when I started picking up the scattered trash.
Oh. What happened?
Well, it's a bit complicated, I said with a forced smile, but Ethan seemed to notice something was off. He usually looks mild-mannered, but sometimes he's incredibly perceptive, like a detective.
Did Mom do something to you?
No, well.
Can you tell me?
He looked at me seriously. Seeing his face, I knew I couldn't lie. I explained what had just happened.
Got it. I'll talk to her too.
No, you don't have to. I'm fine.
That's not the point. It's okay.
No, it's not that. I was happy he would speak for me, but I worried about the aftermath. Whatever happens, the target of the attack would end up being me. I looked up at the ceiling, lost in thought. Then, that night,
I thought Alexis was just playing around. That's not true. She is working hard, doing my share too.
Then why are you cleaning?
I asked to do it. I can't just sit around doing nothing. You just got out of the hospital. I know my own body well.
Scarlett, scolded by Ethan, became quiet. She probably didn't expect her son to be so stern. If she really thought that, it's nothing but vanity. I hoped she would quiet down a bit. That day, Ethan was out for rehabilitation, and I was at home with Scarlett. As usual, I was working in my room when she came in.
Can I talk to you for a second?
Can you wait about 15 minutes?
I can't wait that long. Come now.
All right. Rushed by her, I headed to the living room, where a strange woman was sitting. Who is this?
Just sit down.
I sat down, though I couldn't understand the situation. As I wondered who she was, the woman spoke.
This is your daughter-in-law who does nothing but play all day.
Yes, that's right. Scarlett turned a disgustingly sweet smile towards me.
So, you understand you're not needed in this house?
Wait, what do you mean? Looking around, I saw expressions that seemed to indicate I didn't really understand. I couldn't understand the meaning. Surrounded by strangers, I was being condemned. I wanted to escape immediately.
Don't you get it? We don't need useless people in this house.
I don't understand what you mean.
Everyone says that.
The baffling interrogation continued. They kept insisting on how worthless I was. Continuously hearing this could drive anyone insane.
Isn't it time you understood your place?
Shouldn't that be your line?
You're going to rebel against your mother-in-law?
Isn't this a waste of time?
How dare you?
I was reaching my limit. I didn't want to anger Scarlett further, fearing what she might do next. So, I decided to take action. Oh. Isn't it about time Ethan comes back from rehab?
What? Is it that time already?
Then the mysterious woman left.
I'll come again.
Sure.
I'll be waiting. Let's talk more.
Scarlett and her friend fell for my lie. In reality, he wouldn't be back for another hour.
We were just getting to a good part.
By the way, who was that person earlier? I finally asked the question I'd been curious about.
Oh, that was Johanna, my best friend. I told her about you and she wanted to meet you.
I could easily imagine how she had described me. Probably as a useless wife who does nothing but play. I thought how pitiable Scarlett was, only able to do such things. That's how it was. By the way, Ethan isn't coming back yet. I'll go back to my work. As I was returning to my room.
Wait. What do you mean?
Just as I said. He's not coming back yet.
You lied.
You should have realized.
What's with that attitude?
I decided to say what I wanted. Any further interference from her would be just a nuisance. Weren't you the one who started this conflict? You brought your friend because you couldn't handle it alone?
That's not true. I can handle someone like you on my own.
Then please do. If you really can. I boldly taunted her. I thought she would do something by that, and she reacted.
Apologize now, while you can.
I have no intention of doing that. Unable to contain her anger, she grabbed a vase nearby and threw it at me, just like the trash can earlier. I easily dodged it, having anticipated her move. I taunted her further with a laugh.
I'm home.
Just then, Ethan arrived. Scarlett panicked.
Why now? You weren't supposed to be back yet.
Oh, sorry. What I said earlier was a lie. He was actually on his way back.
Why would you do that?
It's obvious, isn't it? Pointing at the shattered vase. I imagined the upcoming scene would be quite amusing.
Wow! What happened here?
Scarlett threw it at me.
What's going on?
Her friend visited us earlier, and then... I explained everything to Ethan. He looked both amazed and angry.
Is that true, Mom?
No, I didn't mean.
So it is true. Why did you do that?
I didn't intend for it to go like this. Watching Scarlett, about to cry from her son's anger, I felt like all my troubles had vanished. Well, I have things to do. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Ignoring her, I went back to my room. I believed this would stop her from being mean to me in the future. I never doubted that. Since then, peaceful times followed. However, on that day, having stayed up all night, I ended up napping in the afternoon. Then, sorry to wake you, but could you come here for a sec? Understood. Ethan seemed unusually serious. As I headed to the living room, I saw Scarlett there. What happened? Look at this. On the table, there was a broken model kit. It was one of Ethan's hobbies, something he treasured greatly. When I came back, I found it like this. Do you know anything?
I don't know.
I truly didn't recognize it. This model kit was usually in the former his father's room, but I hadn't been there today.
But someone must have done this.
I looked at Scarlett. She was the likely suspect. Then, she laughed with an expression I had never seen before. It was as if she was possessed by a demon. Then I completely understood.
Even if someone did it, I was out. Remember, I met you on my way back from Johanna's house?
Well, yes.
Also, I found this in the room.
She was holding a shiny little object.
Is this an earring?
I checked my ears in shock. One of my earrings was missing. I thought I was defeated. He was completely getting revenge for what happened the other day.
This looks like yours, Alexis. And you're missing the left one.
I took a deep breath. Getting emotional would play right into her hands.
Indeed, it's mine, but that doesn't mean I did it, right?
Making excuses now?
It's unseemly when there's evidence. But still, the fact remains it was broken. Wait a minute.
Then he went back to his room. He glanced at me as he left. I felt accused by him and just stood there frozen.
Too bad. This is the end for you, doing such things. You set me up. There's no proof. If you had listened to me, this wouldn't have happened. I can explain. We'll see about that.
And Scarlett's words became reality. No matter how much I explained to Ethan, he wouldn't really listen.
Wait. I didn't do anything.
I know. I get it. He said and quickly looked away. I heard laughter from behind.
See, I told you. So what? No need for sour grapes.
I threw myself into work after that. It was like trying to forget reality. 2 weeks passed with hardly any conversation between Ethan and me. During that time, Scarlett kept showing her triumphant face.
Feeling down lately? Something wrong?
I know you don't mean it.
It's too late for that attitude now.
She was unusually cheerful today. I had a feeling something bad would happen, and it soon did, while I was cleaning my room.
What are you doing in this house? You're like a parasite. What are you talking about? Such a noisy woman.
With that, she threw my belongings out of the window.
What are you doing?
I protested her insane behavior.
Huh. Don't talk back to me. Pick them up, please.
Then she suddenly held a knife to my throat. Realizing the danger, I couldn't move.
Don't move, it's better for you.
No normal person would go this far, even if they disliked me. She had clearly lost her mind.
Leave now, or next time it won't be a joke.
Understood. If you insist, I'll leave. I realized any further involvement with her could lead to something irreparable.
Fine, you have a week. Leave within that time.
Thank you. That was an opportunity. With a week's time, I could prepare various things. And she didn't understand. She didn't know who was really supporting this house. The reason she could live freely and comfortably was because of me.
Get your preparations done quickly.
I'll start right away. I told her, but I couldn't help laughing. I immediately switched back to a serious expression, not wanting her to notice.
It will bring peace to the house. Very good.
Yes, indeed. How foolish can she be? Without me, she'll face a hell far from peace. I began preparing for the move right away. The belongings were manageable, but finding a place to live was the first step. And when Scarlett was asleep, I decided to inform Ethan.
So, you were told that? Actually, I have something to say too.
I shouted in response to the serious topic he brought up.
What do you mean? There's a lot to talk about. I'll tell you later. Make sure you do.
3 days after Scarlett's eviction order, I successfully found a new house. And soon, the promised week arrived.
Today's the day of the promise. You understand, right?
Of course. The movers will be here soon.
Finally. Oh, where's Ethan?
I don't know. He's been out since the morning.
Oh, well, anyway. The thought of not having to see your face anymore is so refreshing. I'm going out too, so make sure everything's clean.
Of course. I saw her off with a smile. Of course, it wasn't a smile from the heart. An hour later, the movers arrived and loaded all the belongings. I then contacted Ethan. Everything's loaded.
All right, take care.
See you later. I hung up the phone. I wondered what kind of face Scarlett would make when she returned. I couldn't wait to get to the new place. When the move was finally completed.
What did you do?
Huh?
I just moved as I was told. That can't be. Ethan's things are gone too, aren't they?
That's obvious. Because we moved together.
You're lying?
You want to talk with him? I put Ethan on speakerphone. She clearly hadn't fully grasped what was happening, just as I had planned.
Mom? Explain this to me. I found out that you were behind the model kit incident. Alexis would never do such a thing. How could you know that? Because she gave it to me as a gift, and she wouldn't do something like that.
Ethan was right. I had gifted him that model kit. It was a limited edition, and I had lined up early in the morning to get it. So he was probing you, knowing everything.
Exactly. To see how cruel you were to her. Oh my! By the way, from now on, you can manage on her own, right? We'll enjoy our time in the condominium. What? Condominium? Weren't you just playing around?
She clearly didn't understand anything. I thought she knew more, but not to this extent.
Actually, I've been paying for our living expenses. I thought Ethan was. How could that be when I was at home?
A little thought would make it clear. She was speechless. No wonder, considering she was being supported by the person she harassed. The one who misunderstood everything was Scarlett herself. So, Scarlett, please manage on your own.
I'm not working, you know? Without you guys.
You chose to let go, Scarlett.
It's not our problem. Let's both do our best from now on. Are you abandoning your mother? Huh? I'm not doing that. We used to live separately anyway. Bye.
Ethan hung up the phone. Both he and I felt refreshed. There was a time I thought we might get along, but I quickly forgot about that. Given how things turned out, it was her own doing. By the way, why didn't you tell me?
About what?
About Scarlett.
Oh. To deceive the enemy, first deceive your ally, right? You say the enemy.
We looked at each other and burst into laughter. This will surely bring peace. About a month later. Hello?
Hey, Alexis. I can't do this alone.
What are you talking about?
It's only been a month.
You've got a long way to go. Keep it up.
It's not that.
Let's both do our best.
Bye.
Scarlett must have been seeking a glimmer of hope, but I wasn't going to easily reach out. Ethan had already blocked her calls. So she had no choice but to contact me. No matter how many times she called, I would keep pushing her away.
Shall we move this luggage?
Thanks. Could you take it there? Wait, is your right hand okay?
Oh, yeah. Recently, it started to get stronger. Really?
I was constantly surprised by his recent changes, but I quickly felt happy. Scarlett? That didn't matter anymore. We were going to focus on our own happiness.
Your job is just a hobby, isn't it? Just quit already.
There was a sound as if something snapped. I didn't respond, and my husband smiled with satisfaction. Seeing his triumphant look, I realized the husband I once loved was no longer there. Expressionless, I faced my husband and extended something towards him. My name is Sophia, a 35-year-old housewife. I have a 15-year-old daughter, Olivia, and my husband, Michael, making us a family of 3. Michael and I were childhood friends. Our families lived next door to each other. We started dating in college. Back then, when I was crying over being cheated on by a then-boyfriend, Michael was the one who stayed by my side. Our parents had always hoped we would marry, and were thrilled when we did. So much so, that when we announced our relationship, both families threw a celebration party. As working adults, we started living together, near our respective workplaces. I worked at a small design company, a budding illustrator with demanding days. As for Michael, he worked at a renowned local corporation. The company was known for its clean management practices, and even those in sales positions typically got to return home at regular hours. Before marriage, there was a discussion involving our parents. They suggested I change jobs, but Michael and his parents supported my career, and I continued until I became pregnant. Michael shared household chores with me. He'd take over when I was busy, never complaining. He'd leave notes when he went to bed first, and plan surprises for anniversaries and birthdays. Of course, I took over the chores during his busy periods. In this way, we supported each other. Our relationship smoothly continued, and we married in our 3rd year as working professionals. I got pregnant soon after marriage. It was around this time that Michael changed. Suffering from severe morning sickness, I retired early. I started spending more time at home. But being at home didn't mean I could move around much. From morning until bedtime, the nausea was relentless, and I often spent the whole day confined to the bathroom. I thought Michael would understand. But one day, as soon as he came home, he looked around the living room and said, "Wow, what's this mess? Hey, Sophia, what have you been doing all day?"
Today, I felt too sick to move from the bed.
Maria managed to keep the house clean even during her pregnancy, and she worked and cooked meals too. I wonder why you can't do the same, Sophia. I was speechless. Maria is the wife of his close friend. Her husband, William, is 3 years older than us and is also Michael's boss. Since the beginning of our marriage, we have been close as a couple. Of course, this includes Maria, his wife, as well. Maria, the same age as William, had no friends nearby as her family lived far away. Every time we met, she expressed her joy at being friends with me. William and Maria have a 10-year-old daughter. They were childhood friends too and incredibly got married as students at 18. They had a child while still in college. Both Maria and William attended a correspondence university, balancing childcare, studies, and part-time jobs with support from their families. Michael and I respected them for that. But I hated being compared to Maria.
Why suddenly compare me to her? If I were well, I would have done it too.
It's not about that. If you really wanted to, you could have done it. You're not sick all day, are you?
Think about how I feel coming home to no dinner.
With that, he went into the bedroom. Since then, he stopped doing any household chores. But only when we were alone. When guests came, he suddenly became cooperative. For instance, when my mother-in-law comes to help, he returns to doing chores as usual, just for that time. He actively cooks and starts hanging laundry. Then he says,
Sophia is pregnant, so we shouldn't push her too hard. It would be terrible if something happened. Besides, men should do their share of the household chores too.
I thought, how can you say that? But I couldn't speak up, seeing how happy his mother was. However, as soon as she left, he abandoned everything he was doing.
I helped today, so you can handle the rest, right? You've slacked off enough. I wasn't slacking off. Can't you at least finish what you started?
Sophia, you should do it.
You need to break the habit of taking it easy. Maria managed on her own, right? And since Mom is here to help, don't be too demanding.
Every time I tried to argue, he would bring up Maria. No matter how many times I asked him to stop, it never changed. After our daughter Olivia was born, he started treating me like a housekeeper. He criticized everything, from the way I folded laundry, to the menu I cooked, even how I cleaned. He also began to meddle in our finances, reducing the budget for my cosmetics and clothes. I lost all freedom because of that. But when guests visited, he put on a show. Especially the day before we had commitments with his or my parents, or William and Maria, he would send me to the beauty salon. Then he would belittle the beautified me. He would tell everyone,
I always tell Sophia she needs to stay beautiful. But she's always so modest.
Everyone believed his charming words, so I couldn't tell the truth to anyone. I was afraid of ruining the relationship with my kind-in-laws. We lived like this for 10 years. After a decade, I got used to it. I learned to ignore his words and to think of him as just an ATM. We remained close with William and Maria, even after 10 years. However, Olivia started feeling uneasy about her father's behavior and finally confronted him.
Dad, why do you always hide your bossy attitude when guests are around? What? That's not true. And that's just keeping up appearances. Surely you don't expect me to tell everyone that Mom can't handle the housework, right? I'm just covering for her so she doesn't get embarrassed.
She looked unconvinced by his explanation. Seeing that, I started thinking about divorce. But having not worked for 10 years, I was worried about supporting myself and Olivia. Just when I was troubled, an unexpected contact came. It was from the design company I had left 10 years ago. The president told me that they had expanded the business and were looking for freelance illustrators. They thought of me, having worked there before. When I left, everyone had tried to persuade me to stay, saying they hoped I would return one day. I gratefully accepted the offer. However, I couldn't neglect the household chores. So, I initially took on a remote part-time position during a trial period. For half a year, I managed to balance work and household duties successfully. But Michael seemed unhappy with my remote work, increasing his snide remarks.
Don't neglect the household chores for a low-paying part-time job. If you can't handle housework or support the finances, you're just a burden.
That was his constant refrain. Olivia supported my work and helped with the chores when she got home. Michael would praise her for helping, but after she went to bed, he would make sarcastic comments to me. Still, I didn't let it bother me. The reason was that my savings were steadily growing. However, the problem was the reason for divorce. I wondered how to tell my kind-in-laws about the psychological abuse without shocking them too much. Since our homes were next to each other, I wanted to keep seeing them even after the divorce. While I was thinking about this, I received a call from someone.
I have something I want to discuss. Can I come over to your house tomorrow?
It was Rachel, the daughter of William and Maria. Rachel, now a college student, resembles Maria and is very beautiful. Moreover, she has a good personality and often plays a lot with Olivia. She wanting to talk? To me? I had a bad feeling about this, so I set a time when Olivia would be out for her lessons and prepared some snacks for the day.
Sophia, long time no see. Rachel, it's been a while. What's this sudden talk about a consultation?
I had her a seat and served her tea. Then she started talking, revealing shocking facts.
Sophia, I'm really sorry. I'm in a relationship with Michael.
Her words were completely unexpected. I thought it was a joke, but seeing her tearful eyes, I realized it was true. I'm a bit confused. Can you start from the beginning? Is it okay if I record this?
Yes. At first, I didn't know it was Michael. We met on a dating site, and the photos were different. After about a month of messaging, he suggested we meet. I thought he was a college student like me, so I wanted to meet him. But when I got to the place, it was Michael.
She started crying at that point. She must have been very shocked. I sat next to her, rubbing her back, and encouraged her to continue.
I'm sorry, the hardest part must be for you.
That's okay.
Keep going. I want to know everything. Okay. At first, I thought Michael was there by coincidence, so I sent a message to change the meeting place. Then he approached me, recognizing me. He said, "Let's talk for a bit, as long as you don't tell Dad and Mom." He suggested going somewhere private and led me by the hand.
She hesitated, clearly finding it difficult to continue. From her reaction, I understood where it was. It was a hotel.
What happened then? I told him I wouldn't enter, but he threatened to expose everything if I didn't. I didn't want Dad and Mom to find out, so I agreed to just talk and went in.
I could guess what came next. Her hands were trembling. I covered her hand with mine. She gathered her courage and told me everything.
As soon as we entered the hotel room, he pushed me down and, after it was over, he took pictures of me, stunned, and said, "You know what will happen if you don't want to be exposed," and gave me money. It was the same thing from then on. I was so scared.
She then broke down in tears. I stroked her while biting my lip. I couldn't believe Michael could do such a despicable thing. After crying, Rachel took an envelope from her bag.
This is the money he gave me. It's $50,000 in total. He never spent money on you, but gave me this much, which is unacceptable. I don't have much savings, but I'll pay for the divorce trial deposit. I plan to talk to my parents after this. I don't expect them to forgive me. Just wait a moment. Let's go talk to your parents together. I'll keep this money for now. I wouldn't dream of asking you for a deposit for a divorce trial. In fact, Rachel, you're the victim here. You could even file a police report if you wanted.
She started crying again at my words. I contacted William and Maria, and without telling Michael, arranged for them to meet at our house. Since I couldn't let Olivia hear this, I arranged for her to stay overnight at her grandparents' house. She was delighted to go. When I told Michael, he said he'd also stay at his parents' house, so we decided to meet at our house. Then Rachel's parents, William and Maria, arrived. Rachel didn't seem able to talk, so I decided to tell them everything. After hearing it all, William and Maria were furious with Michael and then apologized to me.
"Sophia, I am so sorry we've caused you pain." "No, it's not like that. Rachel is a victim. You don't need to apologize. I just need your cooperation." "It's a relief you say so. We both are grateful. I'd punch him right now if I could. Tell us anything, we're here to help."
Maria had been silent, but then she looked up at me.
"Sophia, Rachel is still an affair partner, no matter what. She should have spoken up honestly instead of complying because she was afraid of us finding out.
but it's our fault too. We didn't have that kind of open relationship with her. I'm sorry for causing you trouble." Maria, with tears in her eyes, expressed her apology. I felt tears welling up too. After she looked up, I started discussing our plan. "Actually, the $50,000 Michael gave Rachel, I don't think it's from our household money. I didn't receive any living expenses, but I did open his salary statements every month. Sure, his allowance was generous, but $50,000 in half a year? It's not possible. I haven't seen any debt collection letters, and his parents don't lend or borrow money. Yet, he actually handed over $50,000. Doesn't it sound suspicious?" Hearing this, William seemed to have an idea and agreed to investigate. I got the dating site account details from Rachel and started monitoring it. We decided to have Maria act as an undercover agent to meet the account holder. About a week later, they contacted me, saying, "We've gathered all the evidence." We then devised a plan. The execution place was my in-laws' house. "Sorry for the sudden call, Abigail. Can we all talk next weekend? My parents and William's family will join too." From my call, my mother-in-law, Abigail, sensed something and agreed, asking to keep it a secret from Michael. I then got permission from Rachel and vaguely explained the situation to Olivia. She was shocked to learn about her father, but more upset about Rachel being hurt. She had been dissatisfied with his attitude and promised to stay with me after the divorce. She also wanted to be present at the meeting. I hesitated, but respecting her determination, I agreed. On the day of execution, we headed to my in-laws' house. "It's rare for William's family to join us. I wonder what it is," Michael said cheerfully. Apparently, Abigail told him she had something to discuss. When we arrived, William's family was also just getting there. "Sorry for the sudden visit to your parents' house. Mom was sudden too. Hey Maria, you're as beautiful as ever. Love your outfit today." Unaware of the tension, Michael cheerfully chatted. Then he turned to Rachel. "Rachel, long time no see. You've grown a bit, haven't you? More and more like Maria. Got a boyfriend yet?" The atmosphere was tense at his words. She forced a smile and said, "Come on, Michael. We just saw each other last week." "Ah, did we? Maybe we passed each other at the station." Caught off guard, he hastily changed the subject. We then all entered the house. Everyone sat down, and there was a moment of silence. It was broken by Abigail. "So, Sophia, what's this talk you mentioned on the phone?" "You have something to talk about, Mom? Sophia? What's going on?" I produced the salary statements and a divorce application. His parents looked at me in surprise. Michael, without even looking at the salary details, tore up the divorce application. "Gathering everyone for some joke? Is it because you can't do housework lately? That's because you're scribbling pictures for a tiny allowance. Your job is just a hobby, right? Just quit it already." There was a sound as if something snapped. I didn't respond, and Michael smiled with satisfaction. Seeing his triumphant look, I realized the husband I once loved was no longer there. Expressionless, I faced and extended something towards him. "You should recognize what this is immediately." "What? How did you get this?" "No, it's not what it seems." "What's different? I'd like to know. How will you explain being a comforter to your best friend's daughter?" William's words left Michael speechless. The in-laws read the documents, looking pale. My father-in-law, Alexander, said, "Michael, not only did you betray Sophia, but you betrayed your best friend and damaged his daughter. Explain yourself." "Sophia, I'm sorry. I thought our foolish son was making you and Olivia happy." Alexander glared at Michael, his face red with anger, while Abigail wept. Michael, seemingly resigned, answered seriously, "Since marrying Sophia, I fell for Maria at first sight. But she was married to William and even had a child. I couldn't ruin their happiness. And I cared for Sophia too, so I decided to marry her. But when she got pregnant, she barely moved. It annoyed me how she used her illness as an excuse. Maria was beautiful, perfect at housework and childcare, so I always wondered why Sophia couldn't do the same. And she couldn't do housework properly but started remote work.
I couldn't stand it. She even made Olivia help with chores. What a terrible mother. But I didn't divorce her because Olivia was cute. I'm kind like that. Recently, I've been meeting women who resemble Maria through online dating. One of them was Rachel. I was thrilled when I found her. I lured her out using a different photo and manipulated her by mentioning William and his family. Being with Rachel, who looked just like Maria, made me happy. You're the worst. Maria and Rachel are different people. And threatening with photos? And that money you gave Rachel, it was the company's expenses, wasn't it?
William's words made Michael snort. The in-laws were stunned. It was a shock to learn that their son, whom they had thought was kind, was the complete opposite.
I'll just pay back the expenses with the divorce settlement money from Sophia.
Sophia, you didn't do housework, so you should pay the divorce settlement. And child support too.
Don't rely on me because you have no money. And I'll remarry Rachel. I get a wife who looks like Maria, and Olivia will be happy with a young mom.
Plus, our kids will be cute. At Michael's words, Rachel gasped. He looked satisfied, seeing her scared.
Dad, what are you saying? If there's a divorce, I'll go with Mom, and Rachel won't marry you. Besides, you're creepy. I hate you.
Hey, did Mom tell you to say that? She has no income or house. Let's be a family with Rachel and me. Olivia, unsurprisingly, rejected Michael's pleas. She brushed off his hand and glared at him tearfully.
Those are my feelings. You made Mom and Rachel cry. How could I like someone like you? You're gross, stay away.
Hey, Sophia. What have you been telling her? Michael's anger was directed at me, not Olivia. I sighed and showed him the salary statements.
I told her the truth. That you're a lowlife who preyed on your best friend's daughter. And look at the payment section. I earn more than you. I'm becoming a full-time employee next month. Even as a part-timer, I'm a freelancer. I've been earning with the drawings you mocked. So there's no problem after the divorce.
Michael, I'd love to hand you over to the police right now, but Rachel said she'll endure it for Olivia's sake. So I'll hold off. But the embezzlement is a different story. The boss already knows. Be prepared. Michael finally understood the gravity of the situation. He turned pale and sought help from his parents. But their response was the opposite of what he expected.
We're cutting ties with you. You'll pay the embezzlement and divorce settlement money yourself, and you're not welcome here anymore. With a scumbag like you in the house, Sophia and Olivia won't be able to return.
My in-laws rejected him. Then my father, Louis, who had been silent, spoke.
Michael, I've known you since you were born, even when you were in your mother's womb. That's why I entrusted Sophia to you. But this outcome is disappointing. I never want to see you again. No, wait. Sophia, you won't divorce me, right? You love me, don't you?
Michael, respecting my father, turned pale and looked at me. Then, unbelievably, he suggested reconciliation. He desperately clung to me, thinking I still loved him. I presented another divorce application. I want a divorce now. I don't love you anymore. I'll take all the savings as child support, so there's no need for property division. I won't take a divorce settlement from you, so pay Rachel. Oh, and what was that phrase? If you can't do housework or support the family, you're a burden. I'm returning those words to you. We don't need a burden in our future. Michael tried to retort, but no words came out. Glared at by everyone there, he reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Alexander, Abigail, even though I'm divorcing Michael, Olivia is still you two's granddaughter. Can we visit sometimes? Of course. We'd be honored if you two visit. Abigail, happy to see her granddaughter again, agreed. Then, they had Michael write a disinheritance document and kicked him out. He was fired from his job without making the embezzlement public. After handing over his savings to us, he was left penniless and now works day and night, living in a shabby house. The local rumors spread, leaving him friendless and without help. William's family moved. It seems they considered the possibility of Michael making a sudden appearance. We still keep in touch and occasionally go on trips together. We hesitated at first, but it was Rachel's wish. My career is going well, earning enough for Olivia and me. We even bought a newly built condominium and plan to move in next year. We look forward to living happily, doing what we love.